Do you know why this spline results in an animation like this? Once you know the why of how splines work in Fusion, you'll have no trouble shaping them to get the results you desire. To understand splines, you need to know how to read them. For that, you need the spline editor. It's a graph, to put it simply. Along the top are frame numbers. On the left are numerical values. Anything you can keyframe and resolve has a numerical value. A spline shows the value of a keyframe parameter at any given frame. Altering the shape of a spline alters the value of the keyframe parameter it represents. Here's a simple animation. A square traveling in a straight line from left to right. Let's look at the spline for this animation. A sloping straight line going from the first keyframe to the second. To achieve this animation, I keyframed the X offset field. You can see it listed on the left in the header. The colored dot to its right matches the color of its spline in the graph. The value of X offset increases at a fixed rate between the two keyframes. Because its value is increasing at a fixed rate, the spline is straight. And because it's straight, the square moves from left to right at a fixed rate of speed, not slowing down or speeding up at any point. I'll change the shape of the spline. Now the square starts off slowly and speeds up at the end. Why is it doing that? Remember, the shape of a spline alters the value of the keyframe parameter it represents. Let's look at the first spline again. Here, X offset's value is increasing at a steady rate between the two keyframes. But with the second spline, its value is increasing at a lesser rate at the beginning, so it's moving more slowly. Then, as the spline becomes steeper, the value of X offset increases at a greater rate and the square moves more quickly. How should the spline be shaped so the square slows down at the end? To slow the square down, the value of X offset has to increase at a slower rate. A flatter spline causes X offset to change in value more gradually. A steeper one causes its value to change more abruptly. To slow the square down, the value of X offset has to increase at a slower rate. So, do we make the spline steeper or flatter at the end? We have to flatten the spline at the second keyframe to slow the square down at the end. How would we shape the spline so the square starts off by moving to the left before moving to the right? When the value of the X offset field is increased, the square moves to the right, so decreasing its value will cause it to move to the left. So how do we cause its value to decrease before increasing? Changing the shape of the spline changes the value of X offset. If we want the value to decrease, should the spline slope upwards or downwards? We have to slope it downwards. This will decrease the value of X offset, causing the square to move left before moving right. Now, how would we shape the spline so the square moves further to the right at the end before moving back to its final position? Do we need to increase the value of X offset at the end or decrease it? We have to increase it because increasing it causes the square to move to the right. So how would we shape the spline to make X offset increase at the end? Would we slope it upwards or downwards? To increase the value of x offset, we have to slope the spline upwards. How would we adjust the shape of the spline so the square moves back to its final position more slowly? Do we make the slope of the spline steeper or flatter at the end? What does a steeper slope do? A steeper slope causes the value of the keyframe parameter, whatever it may be, to change at a greater rate, speeding up the animation. So we need a flatter slope. And why does a flatter slope cause the square to move more slowly? Simply because a flatter slope causes the value of the keyframe parameter to change more gradually. Note that changing the shape of the spline will not change the overall duration of an animation. That can only be done by moving keyframes closer together or further apart. And that's basically all there is to understanding splines. Play around with them to let it really sink in. Thank you for watching.